Hey brothers, what's up? JK with Porn Reboot here. Just a quick video to address one of the recent comments on a video of mine, which was how to be a happy porn addict. That was the title of the video. And there was someone, I'm probably going to butcher your YouTube name, Celster Quintero, I think that was the name. I don't remember. I'm sorry if that's your actual name and I butchered it. But he had said something along the lines of, JK, I enjoy your videos, but I just want you to know that I sometimes get discouraged when I hear you talk about men who are in their 30s who are still struggling with porn. Or when you talk about men who get to 10 months and who get to 1 year and then they slip. You know, he's like, that's very discouraging because I'm just 20 years old, and it scares him to think about, getting to 30 years old and still dealing with this problem. That's a very scary thing. And I want to make one thing very clear. I just want to be as transparent as I can be. I don't say these things to scare you into getting something from me. I want to make that clear, first of all, okay? It doesn't matter to me how you quit porn. I say it because I do get on the phone with men who are in their 30s and men who are in their 40s. And it does hurt me because I'm a 35-year-old man. It hurts me to see them not living up to their potential. And it scares me to think of what my life could have been like, right? And sometimes the only way I can convey that to you guys, because I consider myself very lucky and very blessed, because I'm like, holy shit, guys, I dodged a bullet. And I want you to dodge that bullet. And I do apologize, I really do, if it is discouraging you, because it has only been my intention to motivate you to do something about it. It hasn't been my intention to make it seem like this stuff is so hard and it's the only thing, and if you don't deal with it, your life is gonna go to the trash. You know, that's really not my, I said go to the trash, go to trash, get thrown in the trash box, I don't know, I'm not speaking rights today. But long story short, it's not my intention to scare you, okay? It is my intention to get you to take action in your own life, to do what is necessary, all right? And again, what is necessary doesn't mean join Porn Reboot or anything like that, all right? So let me address this directly in terms of what the reality actually is, all right? And this goes for a lot of guys. This was a comment that was upvoted quite a few times, so obviously a lot of you who view my videos relate to this. For those of you who are 20, I would like you to understand one thing about those men I speak about. And there are a lot of those men watching the videos here, men who are in their 30s and 40s. Back then, there wasn't YouTube for a lot of guys. There weren't any resources for men to use to end their behavior. No one believed in porn addiction. When I was trying to beat this, it was so difficult for me to find someone to support me, which is one of the reasons why Porn Reboot exists. Because even the things that existed then, they did not understand. There weren't enough studies that had been done about porn addiction. So the resources were not adequate for the needs of men who were struggling with porn. Thus, many men just gave up and lived with it. Now they're in their 30s, now they're in their 40s and older. And they thought that they were alone because nobody was talking about it. So thank God for technology that men can now, hear from people like me and from others out there that something like this exists. All right. So don't scare yourself. You're just 20 years old. You're just in your 20s. You have resources. There are amazing resources there. Obviously, Porn Reboot is pretty damn amazing, but there are also other resources out there that I've heard are very helpful, and I've met men who have benefited from them as well. So take advantage of everything that's out there, all right, to recover. That's the first thing to remember, and that addresses age. The second thing is some of you are so focused on men who get to a year or a couple of years and relapse. But think about it. The reality is, if you have a compulsive sexual behavior and you are in the category of men who are medicating a pain, and what I mean by that is, if you're a guy who built up a habit of using pornography and masturbation and orgasm, PMO, in order to deal with your stress, in order to deal with your anger or your loneliness or your depression or your anxiety or your sadness or whatever you have, if you don't develop coping skills, other skills or tools that you can use outside of PMO, well, how are you going to deal with those issues in your life, right? And even if you did develop those skills and a year later you stopped using them, what do you think you're going to go back to? Well, you're going to go back to the one thing that you were using for most of your life, which was PMO. You're going to go back to porn, to masturbation, to orgasm, to deal with your issues. So understand that there are different categories. I don't get too deep into it on YouTube because the truth is that most men don't have the attention span and people just don't want to hear the reality of it. So I keep things light on here. But let me just put it simply. There are men who simply need to rewire their brain because they watched a lot of porn and their brain has been conditioned to high-speed internet pornography. And abstinence from pornography, from masturbation, and sometimes from orgasm will help you rewire your brain and you will live happily ever after. However, there are other categories of men who, in addition to their brain being rewired to pornography, high-speed internet pornography, they've also been using pornography and masturbation and orgasm to deal with deeper issues in their life. Now, those are the men who just simply doing a 90-day challenge is not enough for them. They do need a holistic approach, different areas of their life, their community, their environment, their biochemistry, and if there's any trauma that they've dealt with, those things need to be addressed, and sometimes they need to be addressed professionally, all right? And that's where we come in, all right? Other people can help you for just simply rewiring your brain. Go do all those free challenges out there. That's your thing. But when you are ready to deal, you realize, oh my goodness, there's something more. I'm dealing with some deeper issues. That's where Porn Reboot really comes in. That's when you might be like, oh, maybe I want to talk to JK or somebody on JK's team, right? So just understand that there are different categories. If you're in your early 20s, don't freak out. Just focus on staying off pornography for 90 days and focus on rewiring your brain, okay? Now, the third thing is time. Now, what do I mean by time? Again, when it comes to 10 months, 2 years, a year and a half, and slipping, I went for 16 months. No porn, no masturbation. I was having sex, all right, when I had the opportunity. Most of the time I was working. But I slipped after 16 months. And there was this 3 to 4 month binge, right? That was my relapse. And after that, I got back on the horse. And I was like, what were the lessons that I learned? And I applied those lessons. And then it moved on till I was recovered, right? But prior to those 16 months, there were tons of times, I can't even count, where I would go for 4 months, and I would go for 3 months, and I would go for 2 months. Then suddenly I couldn't even go for a week. I would go for a week and I'd slip. I'd go for a week and I'd slip. I'd go for 5 days and I'd slip. Oh, I have more motivation, more willpower. I'd go for 2 months. I was stubborn. I refused to learn. And that's what many guys are doing. Many guys are still going back to willpower. Oh, I gotta use willpower. I gotta use willpower. I noticed that there's a word that a lot of guys use, which is the word streak. And when a guy uses the word streak in their comments, there's nothing wrong with it. It just means that you don't truly understand the Porn Reboot system yet. And most of it is free on YouTube, by the way, just so you know. It's not something like, ooh, I gotta pay for it. There's a free ebook that talks about it. I've got a free video training that talks about it. Heck, I've even got a free course that talks about it, right? So just a brief note on the counting, right? When guys talk about streaks and they focus so much on time, what that simply means is that you're counting. And when you count, you start building an attachment to all that time that you have developed. What do I mean? Let's say 10 months, which is the example that this brother used in the comment, that he gets discouraged when people, when he hears about men who get to 10 months and slip. So you got to 10 months. What was happening during these 10 months? There are two types of guys. Let's say a guy who's using the porn reboot system and a guy who's just going for 10 months, counting, using willpower, stop vapping challenge, whatever, okay? Hard mode, whatever the fuck you guys call it, I don't care. All right, so let's say this guy is, there are these two men. Now, there's one guy who's using willpower. The man who's using willpower gets to 10 months. He has decent boundaries, all right? Maybe he has some support from a community, and he gets to 10 months, but he's counting every day. And when he gets to 3 months, he celebrates it. When he gets to 6 months, he celebrates it. He celebrates, when he gets to 9 months. Something happens on the 10th month, and he relapses. And it's the end of the world for him. Why is it the end of the world for him? Why is he crushed? He's crushed because he was counting towards something. But ask him, what were you counting towards? What was he counting towards? 1 year? What is 1 year? So you hit 1 year. So what? What if you hit 1 year and, on the 366th or 367th day, you relapsed? What's going to happen then? Right? That man is counting towards an ideal. He's counting towards a image that he has created in his head. There is going to be this magical time or day that I hit when I'm counting where everything is going to be okay. But here's the reality. I don't know if everything is going to be okay. He doesn't know if everything is going to be okay. We don't know if everything is going to be okay after 90 days or after 1 year, right? We really don't know. All we actually know, at least from my end, from our statistics, from me doing this for 7 years as a professional recovery coach, is that it takes about 1.5 years to 2 years for a man's brain to rewire. I can't give anybody a specific date, right? So he's counting towards this ideal, and because it does not exist, it is not real. When he gets there and slips, he's devastated. And it's crazy when I hear guys counting. I'm like, what are you counting towards? What are you keeping track of? Now let's take a look at the second man. The second man is not counting. Now, granted, it's difficult. So subconsciously, he's still going to be keeping track. What I teach men in the porn reboot system is there's a certain point where you lose track. You'll count subconsciously. They get to a certain point, all the guys who count with me, and I just test them. I'm like, hey, how many days has it been? Just as a test. They go like, dude, I really don't know. And this is just part of the system. They count, and they lose count. And that is absolutely fine. But he's not counting. Subconsciously he is counting, excuse me. And let's say in his subconscious count, he gets to day 30. And he slips on day 30. Now he's using a system. He has no ideal. He has a goal. But what is his goal? His goal is not a day when he's free of porn. His goals are based on the things that are negatively affecting him, the symptoms of his porn addiction. Let's say he deals with a lot of anxiety and he's using pornography to manage that anxiety. Well, that is one of his goals. His goals could be to stop using porn and masturbation to medicate his anxiety and to use something else, right? Let's say he's very lonely. Well, one of his goals could be to change that aspect of his life so he's not lonely and isolated. Let's say he dealt with some trauma and he struggled with abandonment or neglect or sexual abuse, and there's some trauma. Well, he'll probably be working with a therapist as well. And so he and the therapist will set some goals as to how he is going to feel internally. These are the important goals, and these are difficult goals to set because they are not as simple as 90 days. Right? And people don't want to set the difficult goals, the challenging goals. Sometimes it's difficult to set the challenging goals for yourself. They just want to set the 10-month goal or the 12-month goal or the 90-day goal. But this guy, whenever he slips, because that's not the focus is internal change, all he does is use that as an opportunity to set a new boundary, to develop a new coping skill, to improve a coping skill, or to understand himself better. That is what happens when he slips. It is not a time to go back to day one and start counting. What happens if he decides that he's going to go back to day one? Here's what happens. He erases everything that he has learned over the last 30 days. Now, I hope you're still with me. We're probably like 15 minutes in or so. But here's the thing. When you say, I feel discouraged because when I hear about men who get to 10 months and slip, understand this. You are not thinking the right way. Your paradigm, your way of thinking has not changed. And that's the difference between guys who are in my community and guys who just watch my videos and get, just try to get the message from the video. Those who are not in the community are counting. And because they are counting is your currency. Counting the days that you have is the only thing that you gain. So all you are gaining is time, but you're not doing anything with that time. The guys who are in the community, the guys who are following the system, every day they are learning something. They are picking something up. They have something internal that they are working on. Does this make sense? So the guy who only has time, when he gets to 10 months and he slips, he feels that he's just lost a lot of time. The reality is, during that time, there were important lessons that he was probably learning or could have learned. When you get to 10 months, that's the example you used, and you relapse or you slip and you decide that you're going to count from day one, subconsciously, you erase everything that you have accomplished in those 10 months. That time counts. That time is very important. You learned things during that time. Why would you throw it away because you relapsed? You relapsed or you slipped because of a series of events or because of one new event that was unexpected. And this is an opportunity to fix that so it doesn't happen again. So the man in the community gets to 10 months. He slips. He doesn't freak out because he has gained so much. He goes like, this is awesome. Now I know the challenge I would face if I was counting and I got to 10 months. He's not really counting, he just got to this point, right? So he uses this as an opportunity to fix it. When you have that mindset, you stop worrying about 10 months. You stop worrying about guys who get to 2 years and slip. You realize that even if they relapsed and they fell off the train for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they'll get back on because they learned something. Those who are using a system, those who are in recovery. So the question, brothers, to ask yourself is this: am I in recovery? Am I using a system? Or am I just playing games of counting? That's the difference between people who are serious about their recovery and people who are playing games. And the reality is, many of you are just playing games. You're out here counting. Here's my last point. For those of you who are in your 20s, don't put too much importance on your relapse. What I mean by this is many of you pause your life because of a relapse. You feel that because you relapsed, all the things that you're working on, you need to throw them away. Again, this is a symptom of not following a system. It's a symptom of just counting. the counting becomes so important to you that if you were, let's say you were building your body up, let's say you were improving your social skills and getting rid of your social anxiety, let's say you decided that you were going to improve your career and you were going to move up in life, or you were going to become financially free, whatever it is that you're working on, because you were so attached to counting, the moment you relapse, you threw all of that away. Listen, I didn't let any of these things get in my way. I knew quite clearly that my porn addiction and my masturbation addiction was holding me back in life. I knew that for a fact. I knew that my fatigue, my lack of focus, I was realizing these things and I understood them. But I pushed myself even though I was slipping. I went out there and I got a job. Yeah, it was a tough job. It was a door-to-door sales job. And I was slipping and failing at it. I would fail, I would get rejected, I would come back home, I would masturbate because of my anxiety and my fear of failure. I would go out, I would try to talk to girls, they would reject me, women would reject me, I would come back, I would masturbate, I would slip, I would relapse, but I would keep going. I did not stop. I did not let the relapse make that the end of the story. I kept moving forward in my life. And here's the thing. The reality is, time is passing anyway. You better start using that time to do things. Don't sit down, because all that time you spend wallowing in discouragement and feeling bad for yourself and throwing a pity party, going like, oh, I'm so worried about what is going to happen to me 10 years from now. What if I'm a fuck up? Guys, if I focused on that instead of focusing on moving my life forward, it will be over for me. Now, you would think it would be in my best interest to tell you some salesy bullshit like, you need to focus on your reboot, because if you don't focus on your reboot, if you don't focus on quitting porn, your life is fucked. No. Here's the reality. The reality is, sometimes you can go, fuck this reboot shit. I need to make money. Fuck this reboot shit. I need to deal with my anxiety. Like, yeah, I'm still slipping, but I need to do other shit in my life. It's okay to do that. I give you permission. If you're sick and tired of slipping and the other things you want to do in your life, keep fucking slipping, but move forward in your life. You can come back to your recovery later. It is okay. I did that many times. All right? So I don't like to see guys, discouraged, and I especially don't like to feel like I'm the person who is somehow responsible for that, because I feel that as your brother in this struggle, as your big brother, my responsibility is to help you beat this, all right? And I'm going to keep it as real as possible. I appreciate you being honest, brother. I know I totally messed your name up. But I hope this made sense. Sometimes I just run my mouth in these videos while trying to make a point, and it's all over the place. But I hope this had some structure to it. And if you have more questions, more concerns about this, please feel free to leave your comment below. I rarely respond to these comments because, again, I don't like to spend too much time on YouTube. It's my team that uploads these videos. But a good place to get in contact with me would be on Facebook, in our private Facebook group. It's free, all right? All you got to do is join the Facebook group, put a comment in there, ask your question. I'll usually shoot a video that is not put on YouTube to answer it. All right, brothers, there's a link to that in the description below. All right, I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for watching the videos, for paying attention, and for responding. Have a wonderful day.